Good evening, everyone. My name is Gabriel Meyer, the Executive Director of the Ruskin Art Club, and we're delighted that all of you could join us tonight for this third annual celebration of John Ruskin's birth, February 8th, 1819, a real Ruskin birthday bash with much to delight and inspire us. So first words, happy 203rd birthday, Mr. Ruskin. We have with us tonight from the British Consulate here in Los Angeles, Rosamond O'Neill, the Consulate's Trade Investment Officer for the Creative Arts, to say a few words. Rosamond?
Hi there, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I feel really honoured to be in this beautiful gallery surrounded by art from all over the world. And as part of my role with the British government here in LA, I have the pleasure of being able to pick from the creative arts what I want to work in, whether it's film and TV and entertainment, and fine art is something that I've grown up around and are really looking forward to support in my role here in LA. Just been in it for 2 years, but lived in LA for 10 years previously before doing furniture design and interiors. And talking just now, looking around the gallery on how much art infects so much into our self-confidence and our thoughts about life in general. And I'm just really honoured, sorry about my joy, to listen to music and thinking both as a parent in Los Angeles, my 2 children here, bringing art into their life from an early age just imbues that sense of confidence and creativity that flows into everything. But when I spoke to my mother, who's an artist back in London, a few days ago, she was incredibly excited to hear about this because back in 1958, when she was 19, required reading was Ruskin's Unto This Last for her going to university to study economics. Although she had done fine art previously. So she worked out back in the 50s, it was a decision between being an artist or being an economist and going into business. And what she's found over time is that those two aren't separate and they have worked so strongly in her career throughout her life. So it's an honor to be here and to hear more. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Rosamond. While a few of us would dispute that John Ruskin is a major figure in Victorian thought and letters, a polymath scientist, prose stylist, art and social critic, proto-environmentalist, and so forth, most people are surprised to learn that Ruskin also wrote music. If you're interested, you'll find a PDF on the subject on our Ruskin Art Club website under the Resources tab. Virtually all of Ruskin's small output of songs and dances were written to entertain his family and guests on long evenings in his Brentwood estate drawing room. Our own Zelter Quartet will get the festivities underway tonight by playing a string quartet arrangement of one of Ruskin's songs, the air at Marmion's Grave, written in 1881, words by Sir Walter Scott, music by John Ruskin. It's not too much to say that Ruskin, a prolific and popular lecturer, in fact, his lectures at Oxford in the 1870s often had to be given twice because the halls couldn't hold the audiences that wished to attend. It's not too much to say that Ruskin often embarrassed the authorities who invited him to speak. That, in fact, of course, may have played a role in the appeal. But in the case of the leading citizens of Bradford, second largest city in West Yorkshire, England, and one of the boom towns of the Industrial Revolution, a textile capital, they were positively stunned when they asked John Ruskin down for his advice on the proper architectural style of their new stock exchange in 1864. The lecture they got is one of Ruskin's greatest public utterances, a virtuoso critique of the fashionable Gothic taste of the day, and more to the point, of the morals of the get-rich-quick capitalists who dominated the town and characterized the age. What Bradford got was not the old Ruskin of the exuberant prose of modern painters and the arbiter of art. It was the new post-1860s Ruskin, the social critic of the nature of Gothic and unto this last. While the satire is blistering, the encouragement, I think we miss that sometimes, the encouragement, the exhortation to reform is also there. George Bernard Shaw once wrote in 1920 that Ruskin's invective was so much more effective than Karl Marx's because, unlike Marx, Ruskin delivered it utterly without malice. It's also interesting to note that in 1888, the year of the founding of the Ruskin Art Club here in Los Angeles, the Ruskin Reading Guild of Bradford was formed. And Bradford became one of the leading engines of progressive reform in industrialized cities in the UK. So in some sense, it worked. We're very excited to welcome actor Jeff Sugarman to recite an edited version, edited for time, not content, of Traffic for us tonight, to hear this famous lecture, I think so importantly, not as a text on the page, but as a lecture, as something delivered to an audience, words addressed to a real audience, as words addressed, in fact, to us. Jeff Sugarman is the winner of the LA Drama Critics Circle Award for his portrayal of Laurence Olivier in Austin Pendleton's acclaimed play, Orson's Shadow. Jeff has performed in theaters in Los Angeles, New York, and across the country, including as Oberon in A Midsummer Night's Dream, Peck in How I Learned to Drive, Oliver in As You Like It, Kenny in Theater District, and Captain Anderson in A.R. Gurney's Far East. Jeff has also appeared as various lawyers, doctors, senators, rich bastards, dads, and CEOs in films, TV shows, and commercials, most notably as Colonel Pollard in the feature film A Marine Story, and as Mr. Canfield in the short film Clown Nose Theory. Jeff says he has John Ruskin to thank for his move to Los Angeles, as he was cast some 21 years ago as Mr. Ruskin in the West Coast premiere at South Coast Rep of Gregory Murphy's The Countess, for which tonight Jeff is making a minor act of atonement. Jeff Sugarman.
Thank you.
Shift a little this way.
My good Yorkshire friends, you asked me down here among your hills that I might talk to you about this exchange you're going to build. But earnestly and seriously asking you to pardon me, I am going to do nothing of the kind. I cannot talk, or at least can say very little about this same exchange. I must talk quite of other things, though not willingly. I could not deserve your pardon if, When you invited me to speak on one subject, I willfully spoke on another. But I cannot speak to purpose about anything about which I do not care. And most simply and sorrowfully, I have to tell you in the outset, I do not care about this exchange of yours. I do not care about this exchange because you don't, and because you know perfectly well I cannot make you. Look at the essential circumstances of the case, which as businessmen you know perfectly well. You are going to spend £30,000, which to you collectively is nothing. The buying of a new coat is, as to the cost of it, a much more important matter of consideration to me than the building of a new exchange is to you. But you think you might as well have the right thing for your money. You know there are a great many odd styles of architecture about. You don't want to do anything ridiculous. You hear of me, among others, as a respectable architectural man-milliner, and you send for me, that I may tell you the leading fashion and what is in our shops for the moment, the newest and sweetest thing in pinnacles. Now, pardon me for telling you frankly, you cannot have good architecture merely by asking people's advice on occasion. All good architecture is the expression of national life and character, and is produced by a prevalent, eager national taste or desire for beauty. And I want you to think a little of the deep significance of this word, taste. For no statement of mine has been more earnestly and more oftener controverted than that good taste is essentially a moral quality. No, say my antagonists. Taste is one thing, morality is another. Permit me, therefore, to fortify this old dogma of mine somewhat. Taste is not only a part and an index of morality. It is the only morality. The first and last and closest trial question to any living creature is, what do you like? Tell me what you like and I'll tell you what you are. Go out into the street and ask the first man or woman you meet what their taste is. And if they answer candidly, you know them, body and soul. You, my friend, in the rags and the unsteady gait, what do you like? A pipe and a quartern of gin. I know you. You, good woman with the quick step and the tidy bonnet, what do you like? A sweat cloth and a clean tea table, and my husband opposite me, and a baby at my breast. Good, I know you also. You, little girl with the golden hair and soft eyes, what do you like? My canary and a run among the wood hyacinths. You, little boy with the dirty hands and the low forehead, what do you like? A shy at the sparrows and a game at pitch farthing. Good, we know them all now. What more need we ask? Nay, perhaps you answer. We need rather to ask what these people and children do than what they like. If they do right, it is no matter that they like what is wrong. And if they do wrong, it is no matter that they like what is right. Doing is the great thing. And it does not matter that the man likes drinking so that he doesn't drink, nor that the little girl likes to be kind to her canary if she will not learn her lessons, nor that the little boy likes throwing stones at the sparrows if he goes to the Sunday school. Indeed, for a short time and in a provisional sense, this is true. For if resolutely people do what is right, in time they come to like doing it. But they are only in a right moral state when they have come to like doing it. The entire object of true education is to not merely make people do the right things, but to enjoy the right things. Not merely industrious, but to love industry. Not merely learned, but to love knowledge. Not merely pure, but to love purity. Not merely just, but to hunger and thirst after justice. But you may answer or think, is the liking for outside ornaments, for pictures or statues or furniture or architecture a moral quality? Yes, most surely, if a rightly set liking. It is not an indifferent nor optional thing whether we love this or that, but it is just the vital function of all our being. What we like determines what we are and is a sign of who we are. And it is to teach taste is inevitably to form character. Believe me, without farther instance, I could show you in all time that every nation's vice or virtue was written in its art. The soldiership of early Greece, the sensuality of late Italy, the visionary religion of Tuscany, the splendid human energy and beauty of Venice. I have no time to do this tonight. I've done it elsewhere before now. But I proceed to apply the principle to ourselves in a more searching manner. I noticed that among all the new buildings that cover your once wild hills, churches and schools are mixed in due. That is to say, in large proportion with your mills and mansions. And I noticed also that churches and schools are almost always Gothic, and the mansions and mills are never Gothic. Will you allow me to ask precisely the meaning of this? For remember, it is peculiarly a modern phenomenon. When Gothic was invented, houses were Gothic as well as churches. And when the Italian style superseded the Gothic, churches were Italian as well as houses. But now you live under one school of architecture and worship under another. What do you mean by doing this? Am I to understand that you consider Gothic a preeminently sacred and beautiful mode of building, which you think, like the fine frankincense, should be mixed for the tabernacle only and reserved for your religious services? For if this be the feeling, though it may seem at first as if it were graceful and reverent, you will find that at the root of the matter, it signifies neither more nor less than that you have separated your religion from your life. For consider what a wide significance this fact has. And remember that it is not you only, but all the people of England who are behaving thus just now. You've all got into the habit of calling the church the house of God. I have seen over the doors of many churches the legend actually carved, "This is the house of God, this is the gate of heaven." Now note where that legend comes from and of what place it was first spoken. A boy leaves his father's house to go on a long journey on foot to visit his uncle. He has to cross a wild hill desert. The second or third day, your boy finds himself in the midst of the moors at sunset. It is stony ground and boggy. He cannot go 1 foot farther that night. Down he lies to sleep, where best he may, gathering a few stones to put under his head. He lays down, so wild is the place he cannot get stones. And there, lying under the broad night, he has a dream. And he sees a ladder set upon the earth, and the top of it reaches to heaven, and the angels of God are ascending and descending upon it. And when he wakes out of his sleep, he says, "How dreadful is this place! Surely this is none other than the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven." This place, observe, not this church, not this city, not this stone even. This place, which he puts up for a memorial, the stone that his head is lying on. This place, this moorland hollow, torrent-bitten, snow-blighted place, this any place where God lets down the ladder. And how are you to know where that will be? Or how are you to determine where that will be? But by being ready for it always. Do you know where the lightning is to fall next? You can guide the lightning, but you cannot guide the going forth of the Spirit, which is that lightning when it shines from the east to the west. Now you feel as I say this to you, I know you feel, as if I were trying to take away the honor of your churches. Not so. I am trying to prove to you the honor of your houses and your hills. I'm trying to show you not that the church is not sacred, but that the whole earth is. I would have you feel what careless, what constant, what infectious sin there is in all modes of thought whereby, in calling your churches only holy, you call your hearths and your homes profane. But what has all this got to do with our exchange, you ask me, impatient. My dear friends, it has just everything to do with it. On these inner and great questions depend all the outer and little ones. And if you have asked me down here to speak to you tonight because you had before been interested in anything I have written, you must know that all I have said yet about architecture was to show this. And now you ask me what style is best to build in, and how can I answer? But by another question. Do you mean to build as Christians or as infidels? Still more, do you mean to build as honest Christians or honest infidels? You don't like being asked such rude questions? I cannot help it. They are of more importance than this exchange business. And if they can at once be answered, the exchange business settles itself in a moment. I hope now that there's no risk of your misunderstanding me when I come to the gist of what I want to say tonight. When I repeat that every great national architecture has been the result and exponent of a great national religion. You can't have bits of it here and bits of it there. You must have it everywhere or nowhere. Now, will you tell me what we worship and what we build? You know we are speaking always of the real, active, continual national worship, that by which men act while they live, not that which they talk of when they die. Now we have indeed a nominal religion to which we pay tithes of property and sevenths of time, but we have also a practical religion, an earnest practical religion to which we devote 9/10 of our property and 6/7 of our time. And we dispute a great deal about the nominal religion, but we are all unanimous about this practical one, of which I think you will admit that the ruling goddess may be best generally described as the goddess of getting on, or Britannia of the market. And all your great architectural works are of course built to her. It is long since you built a great cathedral, and how you would laugh at me if I proposed building a cathedral on these hills of yours, taking it for an acropolis. But your railroad mounds, prolonged masses of acropolis, your railroad stations, vaster than the Parthenon and innumerable, your chimneys, how much more mighty and costly than your cathedral spires, your harbor piers, your warehouses, your exchanges. These are all built to your great goddess of getting on. And she has formed and will continue to form your architecture as long as you worship her. And it is quite vain to ask me to tell you how to build to her. You know far better than I. There might indeed be some theories, be a conceivably good architecture for exchanges. That is to say, if there were any heroism in the fact or deed of exchange, which might be typically carved on the outside of your building. If you chose to take the matter up of any such soldierly principle, to do your commerce and your feeding of nations for fixed salaries, and to be as particular about giving people the best food and the best cloth as soldiers are about giving them the best gunpowder, I could carve something for you on your exchange worth looking at. But I can only at present suggest decorating its frieze with pendant purses and making its pillars broad at the base for sticking of bills. In the innermost chambers of it, there might be a statue of Britannia of the market. And I doubt not that what people would come to see your exchange and its goddess with applause. But there's yet another question to be asked respecting this goddess of getting on. Pallas and the Madonna were supposed to be all the world's Pallas and all the world's Madonna. They could teach all men, and they could comfort all men. But look strictly into the nature of the power of your goddess of getting on, and you will find she is the goddess not of everybody's getting on, but only of somebody's getting on. This is a vital, or rather deathful, distinction. Your ideal of human life is, I think, that it should be passed in a pleasant, undulating world with iron and coal everywhere underneath it. On each pleasant bank of this world is to be a beautiful mansion with 2 wings and stables and coach houses, a moderately sized park, a large garden and hothouses, and pleasant carriage drives through the shrubberies. In this mansion are to live the favored votaries of the goddess, the English gentleman with his gracious wife and beautiful family, always able to have the boudoir and the jewels for the wife, and the beautiful ball dresses for the daughters, and hunters for the sons, and a shooting in the highlands for himself. At the bottom of this bank is to be the mill, not less than 1/4 mile long, with a steam engine at each end and 2 in the middle, and a chimney 300 feet high. In this mill are to be in constant employment 800 to 1,000 workers who never drink, never strike, always go to church on Sunday, and always speak in respectful language. Is not that broadly, in main features, the kind of thing you propose to yourselves? It is very pretty indeed, seen from above, not at all so pretty seen from below. For observe, while to one family this deity is indeed the goddess of getting on, to 1,000 families she is the goddess of not getting on. Nay, you say, they all have their chance? Yes, so has everyone in a lottery, but they must always be the same number of blanks. Ah, but in a lottery, it is not skill and intelligence that takes the lead, but blind chance. What then? Do you think the old practice that they should take who have the power and they should keep who can is less iniquitous when the power has become the power of brains instead of fist? Nay, but finally work must be done, and someone must be at the top and someone at the bottom. Granted, my friends, work must always be, and captains of work must always be. But I beg you to observe there is a wide difference between being the captains or governors of work and taking the profits of it. It does not follow because you're the general of an army that you are to take all the treasure or land it wins. Neither because you're the king of a nation that you are to consume all the profits of that nation's work. Neither because you are the king of a small part of a nation and lord over its means of its maintenance, over field or mill or mine, and you to take all the produce of that piece of the foundation of national existence for yourself? You will tell me I need not preach against these things, for I cannot mend them. No, good friends, I cannot. But you can, and you will. Do you think these phenomena are to stay always in the present power or aspect? All history shows, on the contrary, that to be the exact thing they never can do. Change must come, but it is ours to determine whether change of growth or change of death. Think you that men may come and men may go, but mills go on forever? Not so. Out of these, better or worse shall come, and it is for you to choose which. I know that none of this wrong is done with deliberate purpose. I know, on the contrary, that you wish your workmen well, that you do much for them, and that you desire to do more for them. if you saw your way to it safely. I know that many of you have done and are every day doing whatever you feel to be in your power. And that even all this wrong and misery are brought about by a warped sense of duty, each of you striving to do his best, without noticing that this best is essentially and centrally the best for himself, not others. And all this has come of the spreading of that thrice accursed, thrice impious doctrine of the modern economist, that to do the best for yourself is finally to do the best for others. Friends, our great master said not so. And we shall find most absolutely the world is not made so. Indeed, to do the best for others is finally to do the best for ourselves. This idol of riches, this idol of yours, this golden image high by measureless cubits, set up where your green fields of England are furnace burnt into the likeness of the plain of Dura. Continue to make that forbidden deity your principal one, and soon no more art, no more science, no more pleasure will be possible. Catastrophe will come, or worse than catastrophe. But if you can fix some conception of a true human state of life to be striven for, life for all men as for yourselves, if you can determine some honest and simple order of existence, following those trodden ways of wisdom, which are pleasantness, and seeking her quiet, withdrawn paths, which are peace, then, and so sanctifying wealth into commonwealth, all your art, your literature, your daily labors, your domestic affection and citizens' duty will join and increase into one magnificent harmony. You will know then how to build well enough. You will build with stone well, but with flesh better. Temples made not with hands, but riveted of hearts. And that kind of marble, crimson veined, is indeed eternal. Thank you.
Let's take just a moment to let those words sink in a little bit, as I'm sure the good people of Brantford needed a moment to reflect on that themselves. Thank you, Jeff, for bringing that alive for us. It's always a joy to welcome the Zelter Quartet. This string quartet from the Thornton School of Music at USC, in one form or another, has been with us since we did our first Ruskin Birthday Bash in 2019, the bicentennial of Ruskin's birth, at the old Hancock Museum. I'm going to ask Alan Hahn, the cellist of the ensemble, to introduce the players and the work they're going to perform for us. Alan?
Good evening, everybody here in person and online. My name is Alan Hahn. I'm the cellist of the Zelter Quartet. We have here tonight Tom Gilder and Dolly Custer on the violin and Debbie King on the viola. Tonight we bring to you Ravel's one and only string quartet that he wrote at the age of 28 in 1903. It's a four-movement work. It has a moderately paced first movement and a quick scherzo for a second movement. a lush, slow third movement, and a exuberant finale to finish off the whole piece. Dedicated to Gabriel Fauré. But it draws a lot of inspiration from a quartet that Debussy wrote 10 years prior. So you hear a lot of beautiful French colors, textures, and a lot of imagery that comes out from that period of time. A fun fact about this piece, Ravel submitted the first movement to a competition at the Paris Conservatory, and the jury thought that it was too modern for their taste, and so they expelled it. Wasn't the first time the movie was expelled, but it's interesting that this piece was kind of the monumental piece that got him onto the map, and for us known as one of the most prominent, more prominent French composers. Without further ado, here is Ravel's string quartet.
Thank you. Let's hear it again. It's incredible. So marvelously alive, you felt like you were inside the music. Yeah, just amazing, amazing. Well, no birthday celebration would be complete without a toast. And especially given the fact that Ruskin's father was the UK's premier sherry merchant in the 19th century, and the source of the fortune that Ruskin put to such good philanthropic use later in his life. Tonight we have something special. Our dear friend, Professor Jim Spates, is with us. Jim is Emeritus Professor of Sociology at Hobart and William Smith Colleges in Geneva, New York, and a major US Ruskin scholar. He is also the co-director with our friend Sarah Atwood of the Ruskin Society of North America, and not incidentally, a much beloved member of the Ruskin Art Club. So we've asked Jim to lead us in a toast to Mr. Ruskin.
Thank you, Gabriel. What a delight this evening is. And what a special thing to see you all here celebrating 2 days late Mr. Ruskin's 203rd birthday. Jeff, thank you so much. I have seen other people doing Ruskin. You did the best. You got the spirit of the man. You got the spirit of the piece.
Yes.
I enjoyed it immensely. I'm sure we all did. Thank you so very much for being here with us tonight. So I am also honored to be given the chance to raise a toast to Mr. Ruskin on the honor, on the time, oh, there's some wine there, on the occasion of this birthday. Many people in this room will know that brevity is not the soul of my wit. So I'm not going to give one toast, I'm going to give three. And the first one is, and many of you will understand why this is so important, I want to give a toast to the Ruskin Art Club. I've been a member for a number of years now, and I want to thank Beverly, and I want to thank Stuart, and I want to thank Gabriel, and I want to thank Elena for being the stalwarts. We have the sort of the brain trust of the West Coast Art Ruskin group here with us tonight. Thank you so very much. You deserve all our praise, and we know that there's much more to come. Anyway, thank you so much for doing all that you do. The second toast is for someone who is not here tonight. And I don't mean Mr. Ruskin, though he is here as well as Jeff showed us. I'm going to raise a book. It's one of the treasured things of my life. In 1985, I went to England to teach our students for a semester. And I had just learned about Ruskin from a colleague of mine by the name of Claudette Columbus, who taught me in the English and comparative literature department at Hobart and William Smith, where I taught for so many years. She's the one who got me interested in Ruskin. She said, we're going to read Ruskin. I said, I don't know who this fellow Ruskin is. I've never heard of this fellow Ruskin. She said, we're going to read some Ruskin. And it was fun with me. I had grown up with Dickens, as I've told some of you earlier this evening. And so we did read Ruskin, and we read his essays Unto This Last, and we read a collection of Ruskin's great works in a book called The Genius of John Ruskin, edited by Columbia Professor John Rosenberg. We read them all, and I was so enthralled with what I read. I had never read someone who talked about society and the importance of being humane and loving and caring in the social life that we live as clearly as Ruskin had. It transformed my life. I'm a sociologist. It transformed my life. I said, I have to know more about this fellow. So in 1985, as I told you, I went to England. No, I'm sorry, it was 1989. I went to England, as I told you, to teach. But there was one of Ruskin's this last essays that were left out of Rosenberg's book. And I said, I'm going to go find that missing fourth essay. So I went to Waterston's bookstore in London, in Earl's Court, and I asked the fellow there, I said, please show me if you have anything of Ruskin's. So here's the Waterston's bookmark that I was given when I bought the book. It is called Unto This Last and Other Writings by John Ruskin, edited by Clive Wilmer. For many years, one of the stalwart members of the teaching staff at Cambridge University, now retired. So my second toast is to Clive, not only for putting together, this is still the very best book, starter book on Ruskin that you can read if you haven't done so. And I recommend it highly. But secondly, because he has, like Jeff, Clive gets Ruskin. He understands him. He understands his deep humanity. He understands his love of human beings. He understands Ruskin's love of art and the importance of art in our lives. And here's the cover to the book, the original cover to the book. This is a paperback, still available in Penguin paperbacks. And this copy is so treasured. I have annotated it so much, it's falling apart. I had to have it rebound. And I have had it rebound, and it is, I carry it with me very, very gingerly and carefully where I need it, as I do tonight. So a reason I want to raise a toast to Clive Wilmer is twofold. One, because he is one of the great Ruskinians. He spent the last 10 years of his life as the master of Ruskin's Guild of St. George. Ruskin established the Guild of St. George in the early 1870s as a way to emerge. It's in the talk that Jeff read. The important thing is doing, not saying. You got to go out there and do it, make it happen. So he's decided he was going to make it happen. And the way he was going to make it happen is going to create a society which he called the Guild of St. George. St. George is the patron saint of England. And he's shown always on his horseback killing a dragon, slaying that dragon of modernity. And so Ruskin founded the Guild of St. George, created a master. Ruskin made himself first master. He held that post until he became too ill to have it anymore. And then it has been taken over by many people since. And Clive Wilmer did it for the last decade. And the reason Clive deserves our special thanks is not only for this book, but for being a truly wonderful human being, and as well for making the Guild of St. George an international organization of great importance. So here's a toast to the Ruskin Art Club, A, Clive Wilmer, B, and the third one, of course, will be to Mr. Ruskin himself. Hang on a second. Again, Jeff, I thank you so much for your wonderful rendering of all of this. And if you'll forgive me, I want to come to the very end of the traffic lecture, which Gabriel kept in his version that you read tonight. Ruskin's words reverberate always. The more, and Gabriel said we should take a few minutes to reflect on them. So I went through the traffic lecture again myself before coming here tonight. And I came to the very end. One of the things that Ruskin was so incredibly good at, he was a brilliant prose stylist. Many people think he's, other than Shakespeare, the greatest person to ever write in English. And the endings of so many of his lectures or his chapters are just so moving. And I've read so many of them by now. I remember when I first started reading Ruskin, I would go up to my study carrel in the library where I could be alone and just read for a while. And I would just, tears would come out of my eyes because the words were so beautiful. In any event, the very end of the lecture, you heard earlier, I'm going to repeat just a little bit, about 2 sentences for you, because Jeff read them earlier, is one of these very moving moments in Ruskin, where he's been inveighing against his countrymen for probably an hour, all of what we didn't do in the lecture, about an hour, telling them they're a bunch of greedy SOBs. And then he says, but I know at heart you're really okay. And I'm going to tell you what I think you should keep in your mind as you leave tonight. And so here's how he ends his lecture. And so this is the toast to Mr. Ruskin, my toast to Mr. Ruskin and to all of us here tonight. But he says, if you can fix some conception of a true human state of life to be striven for, life, good for all men, as for yourselves. If you can determine some honest and simple order of existence, following these trodden ways of wisdom, which are pleasantness, and seeking her quiet and withdrawn past, which are peace, then, and so sanctifying wealth into common wealth, all your art, your literature, your daily labors, your domestic affection, and citizens' duty will join and increase in one magnificent harmony. You will know then how to build this exchange of yours. You will know then how to build well enough. You will build with stone well, but with flesh better. Temples not made with hands, but riveted of hearts. Isn't that a stunning phrase? But riveted of hearts. And that kind of marble, crimson veined, is indeed eternal. If I could write one sentence like that, I would be happy. So here's to all of us. Here's to John Ruskin, the Ruskin Art Club, and Clive Wilmer. Thank you all for being here. And now back to my dear friend Gabriel Meyer.
Jim, thank you so much. Well, a special thanks to Stuart and Beverly Vandenberg for hosting this birthday celebration at Vandenberg Fine Arts. To Rosamond O'Neill, the British Consulate. Go around to the Zelter Quartet. To Jeff Sugarman. Marvelous. Just with Jim, one of the things you captured, there are many things that you captured about traffic, but one of the things you captured was his gentleness. And it's funny when we think about it, because Ruskin can sometimes, be fiercely focused on justice and can be, in people's faces about it. But everyone at the time who met him said he was absolutely the gentlest man. People would say that when they found out he was being invited to the party, and said, "Oh my gosh, an Old Testament prophet is showing up," and then Ruskin would show up, just an absolute paragon of courtesy and gentleness and listening. People would say, "He would just live." You felt that you were the only person in the world and he was hearing you. So Jeff, for capturing, again, I think when we read that in the text, we're startled by all the passion of it, but you captured that gentleness that I think is such a significant quality in Ruskin. Wonderful.
Gabriel, I want to add one other thing.
Sure.
I relearned tonight something that I've forgotten. The traffic, despite being a disturbing and worrisome lecture in many ways, it's also hilarious.
Yeah, no, it's very funny.
Very funny.
Yeah.
And if you pay attention to what he's saying, he's having them on in the best of possible ways.
Yeah. Jeff and I talked about that in kind of working this through. Yeah, I think again that's another element that people miss is the humor. He's can be savagely funny, but he's very funny, and the satire and so forth. And again, that quality that Bernard Shaw commented that Ruskin's invective was so effective because it was delivered without malice. We always feel in Ruskin that he's appealing, to the elites. He's not simply drawing their attention to the plight of the workers. He's also pleading for them, like your souls are at stake, your life is at stake, your welfare is at stake in the way that you treat other people. So wonderful. And of course to Jim Spates for the wonderful toast and for all the contributions to the festivities tonight. Please visit our website, www.ruskinartclub.org, for information about the Ruskin Art Club, for about Ruskin, membership application forms, our newsletters, and our annual calendar of events. Our next presentation will be in 2 weeks on Thursday, February the 24th, when Professor Sue Hodson from the Huntington Library will be giving us a lecture entitled Out of the Abyss, John Ruskin, Jack London, and Social Reform. So it'll be the usual time, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So delightful evening together celebrating Ruskin, and we will see you then. Good night.